what we really want to think about is basically like a leg extension. So just think, push yourself away with your quads, and that will allow all of this to stay in position, allow the chest to kind of hug over the pad. And then finally on the way back up now we can think about the hamstrings. What's up guys? So it's not very often that I get excited about a new piece of gym kit coming into Elite FTS, purely because like I'm really boring with my training, use already basic shit. But when this came in, and we now have an assisted GHR, which is being modeled wonderfully by Haley right now, I got genuinely excited, purely because every single training event that we do, we go over GHRs, and for good reason. And you know, we get a lot of very strong people out here, and whenever we start going over GHRs, we'll ask people if they do them. Most people say yes, and then we'll ask how many, and there's always one person. And you know, for example, at the last training event, there was someone who shall remain nameless, Nick, I'm talking about you, who had a big grin on his face and was like, I can do 15 to 20. And there's always someone like Nick that does that with a big grin on their face. They come and demonstrate what they think is a GHR, which is interesting. And then we make a couple of tweaks. And in this circumstance, sorry to throw you under the bus, Nick, but Nick couldn't even do one. Never mind not being able to do one. He couldn't even go all the way down on his first rep. So basically what we see with most people who are doing GHRs is, because the entry level is just body weight, which is actually really hard to start with, they subconsciously do everything they can to make it easier on their hamstrings and end up doing a variation of it that really isn't that beneficial. The main thing that we're going to get out of GHR is obviously the hamstrings being trained in a very, very lengthened position, which is great for just making them stronger, but even better for injury prevention and resiliency. You know, so if you're prone to hamstring tweaks or tears, or you're like a sports player, whatever, these are absolutely amazing. And they allow us to train the hamstrings heavy without any spinal loading, which is going to be much easier to recover from compared to like something like a stiff leg deadlift or whatever that might be. But unfortunately, a lot of us are missing out on that benefit with how we execute them. So this is what we're going to go over now. So when this came in, I was super happy, because now we can take all these people who are not weak people by any means, but they just can't do a GHR. We can put some assistance on there and say, look, right now you can't do a GHR in the optimal way. But what we can do is add a little bit of resistance, or assistance here, I'm sorry, so that you can feel what it's like to do one. With that help, get the positions correct, feel what it's like on your hamstrings and what the correct posture is, which you can then take back. The other reason I like this particularly is because the other way you might set this up would be to anchor a band around your chest and have that behind you, which can work fine. But as we're going to see now when we go over this with Haley, one of the big things we're fighting on a GHR is extension posture. And now when we're trying to get all of this packed down, a neutral, and then you've got add a band here, which is actively pulling your chest back, it kind of makes the thing you're already struggling to do way harder, okay? So this is why I got really excited and nerded out, and we had to make a video about this. So here we are. So Haley now is going to demonstrate the typical GHR execution that we'll see. So what we're gonna see when we do this, if you don't mind,
yep.
We're gonna have the feet generally quite flared out, kind of like a sumo stance you'd set up. The heels generally are not going to be on the plate. And then there's, if we can come back up to the top, if you don't mind. So we've got feet flared, heels off, and then we've got anterior pelvic tilt here and an arch all the way through the spine. And if you can just do a couple for me like that. So we've got all of this being arched, anterior pelvic tilt, and then usually what happens is the feet will either start very, very flared, or they'll become more flared as they go through the movement. So basically the feet will start kind of straight forward and they'll twist out then as they go down. They'll lose all this heel pressure. And then what the first thing we'll usually see is an extension, an even more extension in the back as they pull themselves back up. That's normally what we see. If you had to create a cheat sheet to take the hamstrings out of this movement as much as humanly possible, that would be it. The other problem that we commonly see, Haley demonstrated before we started filming here, so I want you to show me what you did before we went live, and I didn't say anything. How you did a GHR normally. So this is way better for the record, but what we see here is just go what you normally do. That's it, just do a couple like that for me. So here, Haley is really, really locking the glutes forward hard here, right? Which is good, because what we don't want to see is the hips kicking back as we do this movement and taking pressure off the hamstrings. But what we're doing here by overextending the hip, we're once again forcing her into extension here. So I want you to come up for me. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna change things around a little bit. I want you to set up either in conventional deadlift stance or what would be like a vertical jump stance for you. But I want you to have the feet pointing straight down at the ground.
Gotcha.
Okay, so do that for me first. And now I want you to get into your top position. So when we say top position here, that means we have a straight line from the kneecap, the hip bone, and into the shoulder. Now, you chose your outfit very well because this is going to make this really easy to see. We can see out from the side, Haley's waistband is sitting lower on the front than it is on the back. What do you think that says about your pelvis?
Tilted.
It's tilted.
Yep.
So let's tilt your pubic bone without here. Think about pulling your tailbone down into the floor. So relax your glutes and try to get the front of that waistband up a little bit higher. Good. Let's hold that. Now we're getting there. Now crunch down on your ribs, like you've done the very beginning of a sit-up or a crunch, okay? Now, hold that and move forward like 2-3 inches at most. Hold there. How does that feel on your hamstrings?
Way better.
Okay, better in what way?
More tension.
More tension.
Versus tension in the lower back and the glutes.
Okay, so let's just, if you can maintain that now, try and go down reasonably slow without letting that tailbone kick out or the ribs come up. Okay, and what we're looking for now as she goes down is to keep the feet pointing straight down at the floor and for that tailbone to stay tucked down. Now for the record, Haley, we did not discuss this before we went live. So this is a learning curve for Haley. Come back up to the top for me. Relax there. So what we're looking for here is when we say tilt the pelvis, you did the thing that everyone does, right? Which is squeeze your ass.
Yeah.
Right? That's extension. That's what you were doing before. Extension is this, whereas tilt is that, right? And there's a difference, right? If I'm here and I just go posterior tilt, there is absolutely zero tension in my glutes at all. That means you've done it right. And if you think about it, why would there be tension in your glutes, right? So if I'm stood upright and now I go into what I say is posterior tilt, but it's actually neutral, my hips are already fully extended. There's no pressure on them. My glutes shouldn't need to do anything because the hip is completely stacked.
That makes sense.
Okay, so now when we're setting up at the top, your goal is crown of your head to the ceiling, knee, hip, shoulder, head, all long as you can, but with that pelvis now under, so the tailbone is pointing down at the floor with zero tension in your glutes. Let's try and get that. So bring the feet in very slightly more. Ideally, what you're looking for is if you're kind of looking from the back, we kind of want her shins to be pointed straight like that, and not so wide that the knees are then inside the ankle. That's going to make it even easier to keep the alignment that we want. So basically straight lines everywhere. Straight line down from the hip, straight line down into the ankle. So crown of your head to the ceiling. That's your crown. This is the crown. So make this as tall as you can, which basically means make your neck long and tuck your chin down a little bit, right? Right, now, like we talked about on the bench 5-10 minutes ago, spread the collarbones and lengthen the neck. Good. Now we go about setting the tailbone. So right now there's quite a lot of anterior pelvic tilt. Lean forward a little bit into the pad. Oh, it's okay. Like just crunch your chest in the middle. So, there we go. Now, tuck your pubic bone in up to your face. That's it. And relax your glutes. Relax your glutes.
I feel relaxed.
They're not relaxed, Asher. Come back just a little bit and flex your hip very slightly. Now you're in neutral. Now from here you can, there, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going.
There you go.
See how you were jammed in extension? That's what, hold that, right?
I got you.
Now you can just crunch it, like imagine you're trying to give the pad a little bit more of a hug. So basically what we're looking for is the sternum and the lower ribs are now down. We're as close to neutral as we're probably gonna get in Haley today, which is fine. And just go forward like an inch. Hold there. So now we get tension here straight away. Now on the way down, don't think about the posterior chain at all. What we really want to think about is basically like a leg extension. So just think, push yourself away with your quads, and that will allow all of this to stay in position. Allow the chest to kind of hug over the pad. And then finally on the way back up now we can think about the hamstrings.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Let's go back to the top. Right, let's go one more.
Absolutely.
To get that nice tall position, crown of head to ceiling. Let's get out of this posterior tilt, or anterior tilt, I'm sorry, a little bit more, even more. There, hold. Now, you have a tendency, as you're leaning into it, you let this push you up. So actively hug it, and imagine you're doing like the beginnings of a crunch into the pad. You're doing like a cable crunch or whatever, right? So crunch your abs down as you lean into it. There we go, that's better. Now push through your quad, push through your quad, push through your quad. Now she's keeping pressure on her whole foot the whole time. And now we can come up with the hamstring.
Oh yeah.
Perfect, okay? Way, way better, way more hamstring tension, especially in the lengthened position down here. The downside is you're gonna be humbled. Now, the main thing that comes up after we do this is, I don't feel anything in my glutes, and that's okay, right? This is called a glute ham raise, I get that. But if we look at Haley from the side, can you do one more rep?
Yeah, absolutely.
Haley just did like a leg day yesterday, so let's all send her our strength right now. All right, posterior tilt, more than that. So don't extend forward. Now tilt, there. Okay, perfect. Now allow your abs to crunch over the pad as you go down. Right, look at her hip. Just go do a rep for me if you can. Her hip is basically completely extended the whole time. So the hip isn't actually doing any work. There's no flexion or extension of the hip when you do this exercise correctly. The reason the hamstring then works is because the hamstring also crosses the knee joint, which is the joint that's moving. So that's why in reality, all your glute should be doing here is just kind of holding that pelvic position and hanging out, whilst it's the hamstrings that take all the load, which is the main reason that this is such a fantastic exercise, because it basically takes the glutes out of the equation and allows all that hip extension demand to fall on the hamstring. So give this a go. Remember, feet entirely planted on the platform and straight forward, pelvis tilted so your waistband is level from back to front, ribs down, and prepare to be humbled. And this is why we made this machine, because everyone's going to be humbled. You're welcome.